Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge. Today I want to do kind of a quick dedicated non-spoiler review for Lovely War by Julie Berry. I just read this. If you saw it in my wrap-up for May, it was my only 5-star book last month. And I just wanted to go through some things I liked about it just a little bit more for you. I haven't seen a ton of reviews for this story yet, and I just wanted to share them. So the setup of this novel is Aphrodite is telling the story of two couples that she brought together during World War I. She's telling this story during World War II, but it happened during World War I in 1917, that James and Hazel and Aubrey and Colette met each other in vastly different circumstances. So James goes to a dance and he meets Hazel. She's playing piano there, and they dance and they very quickly fall in love. And Aphrodite says, she's like, I didn't have to do very much for those two to meet and for them to fall in love. And then he ships out 3 days after they meet. And so they write letters back and forth, but they're very sure they've fallen in love that quickly. And so it's so beautiful. And then when James goes off to training and eventually to the front trenches to become a sniper, Hazel joins the YMCA to work for the entertainment corps to help keep morale up. And when she's there, she meets Colette, who is a Belgium woman who joined the YMCA when her entire family is murdered very early on in the war. Her new love, Stefan, who is also her friend, and they had just started finally dating each other, and he died and her parents died while she hid in a church. And so she feels immense guilt for that. And so Hazel meets Colette, and then the both of them meet Aubrey, who is an African-American from Harlem who plays music, and he plays ragtime, and he plays jazz, and he does all these things, and he's actually come over with a group who is a band for where they're at. And so in the mornings, they do kind of like grunt work, they'll help lay railroad tracks or help dig things, and then at night they do entertainment as well. And they end up meeting up, and he falls for Colette, which is very dangerous for him, because not only are they not supposed to mingle with the entertainment corps, but the African Americans are not supposed to, in the eyes of the soldiers there, be messing with the white women. Yeah. So those are how our couples know each other. This takes place over about a year's time in the telling of the story, and Aphrodite is telling this story with the help of Apollo, Hades, and Ares to Hephaestus, who Hephaestus is Aphrodite's husband, and he has caught her cheating on him with Ares. And so she is telling these stories to prove why love and war are always drawn to each other. And so they tell these two stories. And Ares, he is watching James a lot because James is on the front, and he's a sniper, and he's dealing in difficult situations. And Apollo, he's the god of music, and so he's always encouraging Aubrey to focus on his music and not focus on the girls. And Hades is there when and if danger should befall anyone we love. And so that's the main setup of the story. So now I want to go into, I'm going to borrow kind of a thing that my friend Murphy does when she talks about stories, and kind of go into a few things I like and then a couple things I didn't like, which there's not really much I don't like. This is a 5-star read, and that means for me that I can't really be bothered to critique the story at all, but I just want to share a few things. So let's start with a couple things I didn't like so we can move on to that. I wanted more details of what was happening in their lives. This is being told in an omniscient point of view by the gods. So the chapters will be, it will say who the god is who's speaking, and then what the date is, and there'll be a chapter name. So it's like an omniscient point of view, but sometimes I didn't get what I wanted out of each chapter. A lot of the chapters were really short because it was going between the different gods, because Apollo might be seeing one situation and he's looking at it this way, but then Aphrodite, as the goddess of love, is looking at it a different way. And so you'd get that. But I mean, I'm nitpicking, guys. I'm nitpicking so hard because it's hard for me because I really loved this story. I read it pretty slowly just to like savor it. I could have finished it in one sitting, but I spread it out over like 4 days because I loved it so much. Let's see. Also, of course, the racism was very difficult. However, if you know anything about, like, if you've watched any other reviews for me, you know that I don't like reading things that hit too close to home. I read books for fantasy. I read books, that's why I don't read a ton of contemporary things, unless they're like wild, bombastic romances or things like that that could be real but are still kind of fantastical. And a lot of things about this hit really close to home, especially reading this over Memorial Day weekend, as I did. So I didn't like reading about how they were treated. And you're not supposed to like it, of course, but those were the chapters that threw me out, is the way that Aubrey and his friends in his squad were treated. It was really hard, and I ended up like skimming some of those. And there is a lot of violence in this book, even though I would say this book could skew pretty young. Like, there was nothing overly graphic or sexual or else violent wise, because the gods tell it in kind of like a musical way. So beautiful. It's the time for me that beautiful writing was a good way, because like Aphrodite is proud of how she leads these couple down their road of love. And so, but the way she tells it, and this is like, it's told so lovingly. I'm not going to things I love yet, things I, so that was something that I didn't like, was reading those chapters. But that didn't mean they weren't true, and that didn't mean they weren't important. I'm just telling you what was difficult to read for me. But yeah, so those are two things that I didn't really love about it. Now let's talk about some things that I do love. Again, I really love how much Aphrodite loves the people. Like, I feel like in a lot of other stories where gods are dealing with humans, they're very like cruel to them, or try to put roadblocks in their way, or like other gods are like sabotaging each other. You know, like maybe Aphrodite's trying to make these two fall in love, but like Hades wants them to die or something. That's not the case. Like, even though the overarching story is that like Hephaestus and Aphrodite are having marital issues, the gods are like very loving about the people in this, and I really like that. Like, even Ares, the god of war, like, he sees war as like it has a purpose, and he's not callous about it. It's more of like there was a reason for there to be a war, and he wants justice, like that kind of thing. It's hard to explain. And Apollo, like, he wants his characters who love music to have what they want to have, and he stokes that passion in them. Like, that's what he is he like sprinkles the passion on them. And like Aphrodite, she does things as in like she's a fate almost. She like removes obstacles from their way. Like, there's a chapter in this book where two of the characters are going to meet each other, and they don't have cell phones, so they literally write a letter to each other that says, "I'll meet you on this day in this part of Paris." Well, there's a lot of people there. And like Aphrodite, she's like, it's like I put a string on both of them so that they were like pulled to each other, so they wouldn't miss each other. Like, things like that. And in the beginning, because of how the very first couple chapters are, I thought Aphrodite would be kind of like bitchy about it, if that makes sense. But she has so much care and love for these people that she is bringing together. And I loved it. I loved the romance. I loved the ache of them being apart. I loved when there was a dangerous situation, how they would just like, the two girls, Colette and Hazel, they were just there for each other. And like, there's a time in the book where Hazel and James get to meet up again. And when he has to go back to war, Colette makes sure that she's home, because she knows that Hazel's going to need someone to cry with when he goes back. Because each time they get to see each other, you know, they're being more and more broken down by the war. It hurts more and more. And every time they have to leave, they know they might not see each other again. And so when they get those chances to be together, it's like they have such a gift that they're together. But they know that at the end of that time, James is going back to the front to do a very dangerous job. And the memories they have that they're making in that time might be all that they'll get. And that was very evident to me. I didn't peek ahead in this story to see what was going to happen. And that might be all that they were going to get. And so I was just aching for them. And I was reading so fast. And I was, the gods who I loved how they were telling the story. I was begging. I was like, please, please don't do them wrong. Please let these people get to love and be together. And like, don't make this war that ruined so many lives ruin these people's lives. And it's a beautiful story. This is a non-spoiler review. If you've read it, feel free to DM me on Instagram or Twitter. I'm the Book Refuge on every social media. I would love to talk about it with you. But this isn't a book that there's like a ton to spoil for. It's an experience. It's beautiful. It isn't rushed. It's told simply and has enough time for what it has time for. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so beautiful. I really want to read other things Julie Berry has written. And she made a war story, which I shun from those. They terrify me. It was beautiful, and I would read it again. So thank you so much for joining me for this review. I put up new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you'd like to see more, you can do that now. Bye.